All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into a huge global health issue that, often works in the shadows, hepatitis. We're going to break down what it is, how it gets around, and what makes some types of it so incredibly tough to beat.
Think about your liver. It's this absolute powerhouse, right? Constantly filtering, detoxifying, doing hundreds of jobs without you even knowing it. It's the silent workhorse, your body. But what happens when that workhorse gets inflamed, when it comes under attack from an enemy you might not even realize is there? Well, that's what we're talking about when we say hepatitis.
You hear the word hepatitis, and it sounds pretty specific. But really, it's a super broad term. All it means is inflammation of the liver. And lots of things can cause it. Alcohol, certain drugs, toxins, even your own immune system turning on itself. But the number one cause, and what we're really focusing on today, is a very specific group of viruses.
And when we talk about viral hepatitis, wow, it is a massive public health issue. We're talking about an estimated 10 million cases happening all over the world. To give you some perspective, that's like the entire population of a country like Sweden getting this illness. And a lot of the time, they don't even know it.
Okay, so we're going to zero in on the 5 main viruses that are unrelated to each other, but all have this weird, specific attraction to your liver cells. These are the big 5: hepatitis A, B, C, D, and E. And trust me, each one has its own personality and its own playbook.
So for most of these acute viral infections, you can think of it like a 4-act play that unfolds inside your body. Act 1 is incubation. The virus is in, but you feel totally fine. The scary part? You're super infectious. Act 2, the pre-ecteric phase. You start feeling kind of crummy, just vague flu-like stuff, but that's your liver sending out the first distress signals. Act 3, the ecteric phase. This is when the classic signs show up. Jaundice, the yellowing of the skin and eyes. And finally, Act 4, the post-ecteric phase. The curtain falls, the illness fades, and your body starts to recover.
All right, let's dive into our first group of viruses, and these guys are defined by how they spread. We call them the fecal-oral viruses. They're tough little invaders, but thankfully, they're usually just passing through. They don't tend to set up a permanent shop.
So in this group, we've got hepatitis A and hepatitis E. They both travel the same way, usually through contaminated food or water. And the good news is, neither of them typically leads to long-term chronic disease. Your immune system usually kicks them out and you get better. But there are some really important differences. For Hep A, we have an amazing vaccine. It's super effective, making it pretty much preventable. Hepatitis E, though, a little different. The real critical danger with Hep E is for pregnant women. An infection during pregnancy, especially in the 3rd trimester, can be incredibly severe, even deadly.
So let's follow the journey of hepatitis A, because it's pretty wild. This virus is so tough, it can actually survive the acid in your stomach. So you ingest it, it sets up camp in your intestines and multiplies. Then it hops into your bloodstream for a ride straight to the liver. Once it's there, it basically turns your liver cells into little virus factories. Then, all the new virus copies get released into your bile, travel back to the intestines, and are shed, completing the cycle.
All right, now we move on to the second group, the blood-borne viruses, B, C, and D. And honestly, this is where things get a lot more serious. Unlike their cousins we just talked about, these viruses are a much more persistent threat. They're capable of hiding out in your body for years, even decades, causing chronic, lifelong disease.
First up is hepatitis B, or HBV. This is a really complex virus, and it's a huge global health problem, precisely because so many people who are carrying it have absolutely no idea. It's a true silent threat.
Okay, take a look at this. The hepatitis B virus is, well, it's complicated. You can see it's covered in all these different proteins, which we call antigens. Think of them like little flags that our immune system can spot. The 2 most important flags you need to know are the surface antigen, or HBsAg, which tells you there's an active infection, and the E antigen, or HBeAg. Now, if a doctor sees that HBeAg flag, it's a major red alert. It means the virus is replicating like crazy, and the person is highly, highly infectious. And this is maybe the most surprising part. Get this. The hepatitis B virus itself doesn't really do much to destroy your liver cells. No, the damage, the liver injury, is actually caused by your own immune system. It sees the infected cells, freaks out, and attacks them to try to clear the virus. It's a classic case of friendly fire, where the cleanup crew ends up doing most of the damage.
Okay, I know this chart looks like a crazy mess of lines, but it's actually a brilliant tool. It's like a timeline that tells the entire story of the infection. Just focus on 2 lines with me. The green line, that's HBsAg. That's the virus itself. When that line is up, you're infected. Now, look at the black line, anti-HBs. Those are your body's protective soldiers, your antibodies. When that antibody line goes up and the virus line goes down and disappears, it means you've won. You've fought it off and you're immune. So by reading this chart, doctors can see the whole battle, from start to finish.
Next on our list is hepatitis C, or HCV. It's often called the silent epidemic, and for very good reason. An absolutely staggering 70 to 90% of people who get infected go on to develop chronic hepatitis. They can have it for decades with zero symptoms, all while the virus is just slowly, quietly damaging their liver.
So the big question is, why don't we have a vaccine for this one? Well, because hepatitis C is an absolute master of disguise. First, its genetic diversity is insane. There are over 100 subtypes, so it's a constantly moving target. Second, it actively messes with our immune response. But its most clever trick is something called epitope masking. It literally hides its surface proteins, the exact things our antibodies need to grab onto, under a thick coat of sugar molecules. It creates this glycan shield that makes it basically invisible to our defenses. It's brilliant and incredibly frustrating.
And now, for the real weirdo of the group, hepatitis D. I love to call it the parasite's parasite. It's completely unique in the world of viruses. So what's so strange about it? Well, hepatitis D is what we call a defective virus. It's like a car that was built with no engine. It can't go anywhere or make copies of itself on its own. To survive, it has to hijack the machinery of another virus. Specifically, it needs hepatitis B. It actually steals the surface antigen from Hep B to use as its own outer coat. No hepatitis B, no hepatitis D.
And this right here is probably one of the coolest takeaways from this whole explainer. Because hepatitis D absolutely needs hepatitis B to even exist. It means that if you are vaccinated against hepatitis B, you are automatically protected from hepatitis D as well. It's an incredible 2-for-1 deal, a total game changer in public health.
Okay, so we've met the whole family of viruses. We know their tricks. Now, how does this all apply in the real world? How do we use this knowledge to protect ourselves? Let's use a dental office as a perfect case study for how infection control works.
This quote right here, this single idea is the bedrock of all modern healthcare safety. It's the core of what we call standard precautions. It basically means we stop trying to guess who's infectious and who's not. With silent viruses like Hep B and C out there, the only safe bet is to assume that every single patient could be a carrier. So you use the highest level of protection for everyone, every single time. No exceptions.
And that principle turns into a 4-layered defense system. Step 1, vaccination. The Hep B vaccine is the absolute cornerstone, giving you that awesome 2-for-1 protection. Step 2 is PPE, your physical barrier of gloves, masks, and eyewear. Step 3, hand hygiene. Seems simple, but meticulous hand washing is critical. And step 4, sterilization, making absolutely sure that every single instrument is perfectly clean. You put those 4 pillars together and you build an incredibly strong wall against transmission. So, as we finish up, what's the big picture here? We've had these amazing wins, right? A single vaccine that takes out 2 different viruses, but we're still in this tough fight with masters of evasion like hepatitis C. This constant dance, this back and forth between our innovations and the virus's adaptations, that's really the central story of global health. And what we learn from this fight is absolutely going to shape how we take on the threats of tomorrow. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.